Probably like the 3 minutes in the beginning, right?
What? All right, so we go to the WEB170 schedule. I have a revision to the schedule that I told you about. And here's the revision to the schedule. So search engine optimization is still going to be due at the end of week 10. Again, during finals week, Monday and Wednesday will be open lab in here. And I will be available to help people get their sites done. All assignments are due no later than midnight, Friday, June 13th for review and grade. And here's the revision that I'm verbally making. This is not something that I want to have written down. Remember that whole, you're responsible for information I give you in class that's not written on my website thing? Usually what that really means is when I give you extra time on something, I'm not going to write it on my website. That's how you can sort of translate that. So during finals week, Monday and Wednesday, both will be open lab to, again, get your assignments up and running. You may have heard me say that things are due officially on the 19th, but I'm not going to grade until the 22nd. I take that back. I was hoping to have my, so a little personal about me, I have a deviated septum. Is that too much information to give you guys?
You have a what now?
A deviated septum.
And that means?
You know the septum in your nose that usually should look like this? Mine looks like that. So I'm going to have surgery. And I was going to have surgery on the 19th. But I have to schedule on that Monday. My grades are due on the 23rd. But because I'm going to be having surgery here, I'm going to do all my grading on the 21st. Okay? So.
Is it an outpatient surgery?
Yeah, I'll go and have my surgery and then go home that day. I don't know what kind of drugs I'll be on.
Hopefully some good ones.
Hopefully. You would hope.
I mean, you know.
You would hope.
Try to figure it out.
Yeah.
Hopefully
So, anyhow, that's what's going on. So in other words, what I'm saying is I will be grading on Sunday the 21st. That goes for all my classes, every last one of my classes. Okay. So going back to the schedule, the Create a Flex Slider gallery using attachment images in WordPress without a plugin is something that I'll go briefly over next week. It is not an official assignment. Okay, so that's kind of an extra, hey, if you're up to speed already, you could try putting this into your site for your own knowledge base. If you have been struggling in this class to keep up, or if you're just keeping up and don't really feel like, well, let's say you feel like having a beer instead of working on one more WordPress assignment, that assignment is not a requirement. That being said, I will be doing the class evaluations on that Monday. Okay, in other words, the online class evaluations that you guys can fill out. Okay, does that make sense? The search engine optimization is something that, well, let's put it like this. If you notice, these two lectures are not housed within my school site. If we go to the search engine optimization one, it is actually housed on my business site. This is a posting that I wrote up mainly, or not mainly for, just I write the stuff on my business site with all my students in mind, generally. But I wrote this one posting up as a, what do you call it, a supplement to the Writing for the Web class, right? Because in the Writing for the Web class, how many of you are going to be taking WEB170 with me over the summer? Jan? Nobody else? Really?
Already taken.
Huh?
Already taken.
Well, come hang out.
Yeah.
So in the writing for the web class, I go over search engine optimization for your site. Meaning, recently, and a couple of times, well, let's put it this way. Every now and again, I get an email from somebody asking me, how much do I charge for logos? And when I tell them how much I charge for logos, a lot of times I never hear back from those people, right? This last time around, I didn't right out of the gate tell somebody how much I charged because she didn't ask. She just sent me an email saying, hey, we're interested in doing a logo, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know, where are you located? We can meet up in Queen Anne and talk. So I wanted to approach it a little bit differently instead of saying, here, I charge $2,500 for a logo, right? So I met her up in Queen Anne, and one of the questions was, well, how'd you hear about me? Okay. If you know me, logo design is not how I pay my mortgage, right? Logo design is something that I teach here. The last logo I did for money was the IT services logo that I did a very hastily job because of their budget that they had. They did not have $2,500, let's say it like that. Before that, the last logo I did was that integrated financial one, right? Which I probably did by now 6, 7, 8 years ago. But here's what I'm trying to point out. How did that woman find me? And if you've seen me do this before, just go with it. In other words, she's in Seattle. She needs a logo, right? So she basically told me that she did a search for graphic artists, logo designers in Seattle, okay? So I'm assuming that she may have typed in something as generic as logo design Seattle, okay? Now, would you think to yourself that if you typed in a term like logo design Seattle, you would get the really expensive, highfalutin, high-end logo designers that do logo designs for a living, right? Wrong. Because those logo designers aren't as good as I am at search engine optimization. Where I come up on page 1 for logo design Seattle. Again, keep in mind, the last logo I did was for IT services 3-4 years ago, and the one before that was the integrated financial. Why do I come up on page 1? Certainly not because I'm paying Google anything, right? Google. You don't need to pay them. All you need to do is integrate the keywords in such a manner that they match up with what somebody might be logically searching for. Then, from there, it's where do you place those in your website, okay? So if we look at this search engine result page, an SERP, if you will, what we can notice, and I totally forgot to bring in my pens and pencils that I have in my shirt pocket, so I don't have my pointer with me. So I'll use those. I'll just use this for the time being. I feel weird if I don't have my pencils in my, you know what I mean? But if we look at the search engine result, let's break it down. Let's break it down for those viewers at home as well. This title tag, what we have right here, why do I not put my business name first?
Because no one's going to search for that specifically unless they just know you.
Yeah, nobody's looking for premium design works, right? So if you've ever heard or seen those commercials, right? Web.com will get you found. Nobody is looking for you. Let me say that again. Nobody is looking for you. Once you accept that, it's not until you lose everything that you're truly free to do anything. Yes, that was a Fight Club quote. Thank you. Okay? I love the Fight Club quotes. But nobody's looking for you. What they're looking for is a logo designer in Seattle. That could be you, might not be you. They're looking for information, not you. Now, if you provide that information that they're looking for, you are now the expert, and you're the one that's potentially going to get hired, not somebody else. That's how the game works, okay? So, logo, design, Seattle. Now, I have the luxury of having design in my name. But logo, design, Seattle, logo, design, I'm not sure if Seattle comes up in there or not, because this is going to the destination page.
You also have it in your URL too.
I do, yeah. I also have, well, but I don't have design in my URL. I've set up via WordPress the correct URL structure, right? To say logos, portfolio, etc. In other words, this is the gateway page of portfolio. This is the destination page of logos. Notice the one trick that I also use. Destination page, gateway page, business name, location. Okay? I throw the gateway page in there because what if somebody was typing this? Logo portfolio, Seattle. Somebody might be searching for that. They might not be, but again, it's what they're searching for. Either way, if somebody searches for logo portfolio in Seattle, I am that guy, okay? Because I've taken those words and put them in their proper place. So, a little background on search engine optimization. What is SEO and how does it work? Well, basically the way we just showed you, right? Keywords, key phrases should be placed in the following places: titles, meta descriptions, body copy, anchor text or links, alt values for images, domain page and file URLs. I very much recommend, if you've never, how many of you have ever looked into search engine optimization at all? Okay, a few of you. How many of you have looked at this search engine optimization starter guide from Google? Okay.
I thought about reading it.
It's better than not thinking about reading it.
But I mean, it has pretty much, everything that your
Sure.
kind of has, but,
Put it this way, my point that I'm making is search engine optimization is not hard. It is not this secret how you do this, right? And I'm continuously amazed at how websites aren't efficiently setting up their websites for search engine optimization. Or what about these plugins? How many of you have ever used one of the WordPress SEO plugins or seen them, right? Waste of time, absolute waste of time, okay? Why I say that is, look at the page here. Let's put in the SEO title and the meta description. Well, why don't we write a title function and use our page excerpt as our meta description, right? In other words, look at this title right here, right? WordPress SEO plugin, search engine optimization plugin, Yoast. So the parts of a title tag, location, business name, gateway, if you will, destination, right? Why would I write all of those parts over and over and over and over again on each page?
muscle memory.
Or time to kill. Or I don't know what I'm doing. Okay? So in other words, we've already made a good start on our title tag. Yes? In other words, if we look at our headline, we have already put in blog info description, blog info name, okay? Which this description then pulls blog info name, blog info description, okay? So if I then go and visit name, description. So that's good for your home page, meaning Seattle, Washington, I had to put the location in. Premium Design Works, logo design, print design, web design, and development. Okay, so if I go to my dashboard and I go under general settings, site name, site description, also site title, site tagline. So that's a good start for overall search engine optimization, right? In other words, this title or tagline is basically what I do: logo design, print design, web design, and development, right? So in the Google machines, let's go back to logo design, Seattle. This one comes up at the destination page, but sometimes my home page is also in there. Sometimes it's not. They change their thing so many times. Sometimes Pixel Lube is in there twice. Sometimes it's in there once. I have no idea why. Well, what I'm trying to say is that sometimes it catches my logo design, website design, you know, print design, etc. in my title. If I typed in something like logo services, I haven't done that one in a while. I don't think I'm as high up the chain as that one. Yep, that's all right. But one way, shape, or form, we need to write a very structured title tag, okay? We also need to write our meta description, okay? So why I say those plugins are a waste of time is that when it comes to these plugins, you have to write the title out like that and write another meta description, which is duplicate information. We already have that capability built into WordPress. So in other words, the title tag, a good formula for a title tag would be city, state, business name, category, page. For your destination pages, right? Logos, portfolio, premium design work, Seattle. Or if this is a posting, not a page, city, state, business name. City, state might not be relevant, right? Business name, posting. Where convert your 960 grid website to a responsive design, right? So if you're searching for something like 960 responsive grid, page 1, okay? Because 960 responsive grid are all there. 960 grid responsive is in your meta description, or sometimes this gets pulled from the text on the page, okay? Again, in the URL, 960 grid website responsive, okay? So what I do is this meta description. So if I went to this page, and yeah, you just saw me search for it and click on it. You gotta do what you gotta do, right? If I go to this page source then, title tag, convert a 960 grid website layout to responsive design, premium design works, Seattle, Washington. Meta name, description, content, to convert your pixel, blah, 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 etc. Notice this does not equal the beginning text on the page. So where is that being pulled from? It is the excerpt, right? So that's where, just like we used an excerpt to load the description or summary. So again, what are excerpts? So learn more about manual excerpts. Excerpts are optional handcrafted summaries of your content that can be used in your theme. This says to me, summaries of your content. That says to me, meta description. Why on earth then would I use a plugin to fill in my meta description? Can you tell I just don't like those plugins? Funny thing is, if you search for WordPress SEO without plugin, right? And again, let's click on it. I do that all day long. All I do, this is really how I get my search engine optimization out there, is I go into all these labs, and from every unique IP address, I have this list of stuff I search for, find my own website, and then click on it. That's how I do it. I'm joking. It's not. But I take the advantage to click on it all the time, just because I think it's funny. So this is where then you go to the GitHub, and I go to my business site and go to the header. Notice one, I don't have conditions up here in my title tag any longer. I've wrapped it all into one nice big function, okay? For my meta description, this is where, remember how we were talking about the excerpt function writes paragraph tags around it, right? So, but apparently you can't use strip tags without the echo function, and therefore you need to use get the excerpt, because get the excerpt works with the echo function. I think. I'm not 100% positive, but from what I remember, this is the way I had to do it. So basically what I'm saying then is, let's close some of these windows. I'm using the excerpt here on the blog feed, right? I'm using the excerpt here as well, right? So that's basically where I'm using, just like in the Web 200 class, where we talked about, hey, if you ever written a navigation schema 10 times and then had to change one of the menu items and had to change it 10 times, right? Remember those days, those good old days, Ryan? Yeah. This is very, very similar. Why should I write the same thing over and over again? Why don't I write it properly the first time? Okay. And that's where then, like I said, using the excerpts to place in your meta description, to place in your blog feed, and to place as like a spotlights article somewhere else, using the same one paragraph. Okay. Now, the downside is, or what you will have to do, we move on, move on, move on. So we'll get back to this title tag here in a second. Pages don't have excerpts enabled by default. So that's where, so if I am, let's close some more tabs. Go to my admin and my current site, and I go to pages, and I go to about. Right now, you don't see the excerpt field. If we go to screen options, you don't see the excerpt field. Okay, so that's where we are going to need to add post type support page excerpt. So I'm going to go to my functions. And just like I added theme support, add post type supports, pages, excerpt, or not. I'll have to go back and check. Hold on. Page excerpt, not pages. Page excerpts. So So now, if I go back here and refresh, screen options, excerpts. And because I've already enabled excerpts on or shown them on my postings, here it is. So here's what I'm going to do just for the, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, hell of it. I'm going to grab, I don't know, that. Put it there. And just like, if I keep this excerpt that way, right, it's going to populate it, but I won't know what page it's specifically to. So again, I'm just going to tag it about. Okay. Right now, if then I open up my header, I don't have a meta description tag. That's content, right? Not content URL. Hold on. Description, yeah, it's just content equals. Why is the cheat sheet? Yeah. Sometimes you have to double check your cheat sheet. How many of you ever relied on a cheat sheet in high school and you wrote out the wrong answer on your cheat sheet and you got the answer wrong? Anybody? Not me, because I didn't cheat then. Just kidding. Cheated all the time. Eventually, excerpt goes here. So if I just write that out for the time being, save, and I go to oops. View this page, ePage source, excerpt goes here. So now, similarly to on our index, how we used echo strip tags, get the excerpt, right? We're going to do the same thing. Let's see if we actually have to strip tags on the get the excerpt. Get the excerpt. That's right. Get the, so here's what I'm saying. Let's use, don't go typing this with me. If we use the excerpt, it's going to put the excerpt in p tags, right? If we use get the excerpt, that's where we have to use the echo statements along with that function. Yeah, we don't have to strip tags. because the get the excerpt doesn't put p tags in it. Been doing it wrong this whole time. It's really good that I can then test what I've been doing wrong the whole time in class. It's awesome. So apparently we don't have to strip tags because that function then, let's see, postings, excerpt field, excerpts, description. Oh, that's good. Anyway, so now you'll see that it will then grab whatever you have in your excerpt field and populate it here, which then will show up in your search engine optimization. So according to the assignment lecture, the assignment page. I need a vacation, you guys. Who else is with me? Yeah? Okay. Search engine optimization for your site. What did I say? I said you have to enable it, and then enable excerpts for pages in your functions PHP file, populate your meta description tag using the get excerpt function within your header PHP file. Make sure you fill out all your page excerpt fields. Okay, so in other words, I'm just going to go to them randomly when I'm checking. So we go to pages. We go to portfolio. I should be able to see portfolio, et cetera, in there. Okay, make sense? How many of you are working actually with real written content in your website? Anybody? Yeah, a little bit. You know, again, do what you want to do. You know, but you know, at least tag it with the page name so I know that, you know, I can see what page. You know, because I'm just going to go. In other words, don't just put one lorem ipsum, generic lorem ipsum there, because you could have very well just hand coded that in your meta description content. Okay. All right. So that is then how to basically satisfy this, the either, because in my experience, I'm seeing a lot of these search engine results actually pull, like this isn't pulling the first paragraph of the page. It's actually pulling the meta description to populate that. Sometimes it pulls the first paragraph or part of the first paragraph, especially if you don't have a meta description, right? So sometimes, and that's where in the Google world, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know their algorithm, but what I have always done is now use those excerpts as the SEO summary to have the real good results, right? So who in here has logos in your portfolio? Anybody? So I want to see one of you beat me out for Logo Design Seattle. It's happened before. Students beat me out for it. I got really pissed. And then I was like, but I taught them that. How pissed can I get? Right? Okay. Title tag. So this is where we already have a good start. And this is where I'm going to flip through here and grab this code that is supporting it. We've already got a good start in terms of we are saying blog info name, right? The name of our business, blog info description. Again, this is the master description, which is good for our title tag, okay? But how many of you have, well, let's put it this way. If we go to my Git, I am starting to do things like, if I have a bunch of conditionals written in my template page, right? That to me, not always, but that to me is a case for, how many of you have ever heard that referred to as spaghetti code? Whoever had Portia and she busted on spaghetti code, right?
All the time.
All the time, right? She busted me on spaghetti code.
I mean,
You know,
she makes a good point.
yeah, you know.
When you work in Java,
Mm-hmm.
you know, compile languages.
And what I've noticed is when I start to, well, let's say, Alexander, remember when I started writing that, let's go to it.
The long,
The long function for my new school theme, which I realized I was making an error in the for each loop. That's why my navigation was taking so long to render, right?
yeah.
So I cleaned that up.
For each of the images.
Yeah, but even if we look at something like what we did in our sidebars, right? This isn't too bad, right? But after a while, if all of our template pages have all this if, else, for, blah, 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 that's where, like I said, that's where Portia busted me on. It starts being spaghetti code, right? Where you have all this stuff all over the place. So if you want to then go and edit a lot of that stuff, you have to go to this page and that page and this page and that page. Versus just writing it out as a function that you may or may not be done with at that point in time, but instead of a whole lot of conditional stuff, then we can start to use our functions file as that functions repository, that we know that that's where the function is located, instead of having to, how many of you have ever had to search through page after page after page of code to find the place where you wrote whatever you wrote to try to edit it, and you spent a long time looking for it, right? So that's how I've started to use the functions file, right? Is to say things like get my meta descriptions. If we're on the front page, get the author meta, get the excerpt, get the author meta, or my main menu. Well, let's actually go to my submenu. Get my submenu, right? So that's where I started to then pull in the WP list pages and all the conditions that went with it, and some of the variables that I needed to use to either show it or not, and tuck it all into a nice little function, right? So for my business site, that's where I'm doing the same thing for my title tag, right? If is front page, grab the description, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what we're going to do here, or what you're going to see me do here, is in my header, Now, right now, that function doesn't exist. So if I save it, if somebody goes to that, they're going to get an error. Nobody else is going to praise me, so I have to praise myself when I'm writing this stuff. Right? So this is where I'm going to start off with. I'm going to work backwards, right? In other words, I have a few different conditions. But at the tail end is always city-state. City-state, city-state, right? Because again, that might be relatively important. Unfortunately, in the WordPress world, there is no place for city-state, right? In other words, what I'm saying is, if I go to my dashboard and go under settings, this is business name. This is business description, as far as that I'm calling that in that tutorial. But there's no city-state in the dashboard, right? I'm sure there's a plugin that you can put that in there, but it's just as practical to then here start with, again, we're starting backwards, echo. If you capitalize it, do you have to put a period after it? So right now, then basically, Seattle, Washington. Okay. Now, what I like to do in my title tags is I like to put that little pipe between each thing. I just think it's a nice reading way to do it. So back to the Dreamweaver. Again, is there a shorter way that I could do that? Sure, right? I could probably put this pipe in here, right? But again, for my own organizational purposes, I have a tendency to sometimes write code that is a little longer than I need it to be, just so I can read it a little bit better. Next thing I want to write out is business name, right? So what if I am trying to get this site title? What am I using? What function am I using? No, because get the title gets Good guess.
Is it
Blog info, right? The title is what we are going to use for that. So Mike Sinkula's spring demo. Okay. So right now, we've written in the location, we've done a separators with space. We have then put the site name. Again, I'm going to do another separator with spaces because I wrote it once. That's my rule for myself. So now we want to write the conditions of, well, if we're on the home page, right? So let's go back to this lecture. If we're on a regular page, right? We want to get the destination page. If it has a parent, we want to give the parent's category. Then we already have business name, city, state. If we're on a posting, we may or may not have a category, might or might not matter, but typically we want the posting name, business name, city, state. For our front page then, we want to grab the tagline. So, question for you guys. Postings, pages, front page. What do you want to do first? Front page? Sounds good. Now here's the one big catch. Because we are going to be using the post variable. And we're using the post variable inside of a function. We need to use this variable outside of the function. In other words, that variable exists outside of the function. Therefore, we need to tell it to be a global variable so it'll look outside of the function. Okay. Some of their functions you have to do that, or there are some of your variables you have to do that, some of them you do not. But every time I have been writing a function, for instance, in the big school navigation schema that I was writing, maybe I didn't use that because that's right, I was using for each in that one. Never mind. Well, what I do know is that when we are, let's just say it like this. Anytime we're using the post variable, right? Like post parent, post ID, etc. Inside of a function, we need to first specify that the post variable is now global. What am I going to write here if we're going to do the front page? What'd you say?
The front page.
With this front page, right? Again, we want to write out the tagline. Blog info, description. So now we have, if we're on the front page, get the description, separator, site name, separator, city, state. So we should get that tagline. So if I'm on the home page, I view page source now. Putting together my WordPress demo, spring demo, Seattle, Washington. Okay. Else, if. So again, let's kind of write out what we need to do. Else if, pages and postings. How do we get pages and postings? Or how do we say if we're on a page, if we're on a posting? They're catching on. What's the one for if you're on a posting? Single. And this is where we want to then say title, because the title then is the title of the page of the posting, right? Now, if I go to the About page, view page source, About, site name, location, or excuse me, About the page's title, the then site title, location. If I go to I'm recording this lecture. Look at that, I never put the byline there. That's too bad. Title of the posting, site title, location. But what if We're on the 404 page. Somebody types in something and gets this. Uh-oh. The 404 and search pages in custom post types generally don't fall into the page or posting routine, right? Because why doesn't it give me the title of 404? 404 is not in my page tree. In other words, there is no 404 page, right? So if we then are here, and let's say we search for, and let's see if it's found or not. So now we're on search PHP. Look at the URL, right? Again, nothing. What do we want to put up there? What's a good option? Why would, well, yeah, it could be. I mean, you could put the, in other words, so if we go back to, yeah, so here's our thing, right? We could say, we could do that. So we could do something like, is 404 is search, etc., is etc., is etc., is etc., is etc., right? How practical is that? And what would be benefit for writing, and this is more of just kind of philosophical discussion, because practicality wise, search engine optimizing your not found in search pages, really?
Yeah. You phrase stuff here is 404.
Thank you. So why not, let's put it this way. If we're on the front page, if we're on a page and a posting, do this, or else, right? Just go back and put blog info description, right? Our master description. So we have our master logo design, et cetera, Seattle. So if we're on my site here, I type out something that's not found, the page you're looking for does not exist, try search, view page source, logo design, print design, web design, help, right? Meaning that I just chose to, and this is again, just my choice, is to say, well, why not just give the master description again, right? So, The next thing, then, what we'd want to do is, because right now we have, if we're on the front page, grab the master title. If we're on a page, grab the title. If we're on the single, grab the title. But just for extra, like I said, I've noticed a little bit of a kick out of SEO when, and maybe it's my own obsessive compulsive trying to make things up, but I have noticed that if I do a search for something like brand strategy services, Seattle, right? In other words, services might be a very key term in what somebody searches for, okay? So therefore, if your destination page of brand strategy or whatever is under your services page, right? Wouldn't you think that putting services in your title would be a little bit more search engine optimized? But how do you put the parent's title, right? Because I wouldn't then say on my brand strategy page, say brand strategy services. That would kind of be extra writing it twice, right? So how would we get this? Think about our submenu. So we need to put something then right after the title of the page or singular. And I don't think, let's see. Oh, that's right. I actually put it down here. What do I want to ask? If what? Did you look on the thing? Did. Should I allow that answer? I mean, it's the correct answer. Huh?
I said smart mess, we should have.
Exactly. Right? So I could just say, to test it, echo as parents. So if then I'm on logos here, I view page source. Logos has parent. Okay, let's clean that up a little bit. First and foremost, I want a spacer with titles. Spacer with titles. I need a vacation pretty bad. Separator with spaces. Spacer with titles. What does that mean? Then what do I want to write? What am I looking for? As Chris is like, what does the lecture say? The parent title, right? So if, just like up here, I wrote the title, see what that gives me. Logos, logos. Because what that is saying is, if there is a post parent, just write the title of the page you're on. That's not what we want. So there is well, actually, let's go to the title function and see what parameters it takes or not. Oops. Yeah. So if I say the title, so a lot of these ones that are just the this, the that, don't have a whole lot of parameters. And if they do, you can see that it's before, after echo, right? Which means text to place before, like the separator, after, and then true to place the title attribute, okay? So in other words, you could say the title in an H3 tag, right? So that's where we want to say get the title, which the get functions kind of revolve around the ID, right? Get the title of whatever page ID. So in this case, well, let's just say it like this. And this is, again, where the get functions want you to use the echo statements. Get the title of Chris, post parent. Do I have an error in there? Where's my error? If echo let's kind of tab some stuff over here. Also, oh, now my error's gone. Who knows? I have no idea. Now it's going to the parent page and getting the title of the parent page. Does that make sense? So, like I said, I have had, well, let's just kind of go back to this lecture. Now the other, well, let's just say it like that. In terms of title tag and excerpts or meta description, I've had great success with that. You know, again, the other thing is to, couple of the other things are alt values for images. So when you are placing images into your website, right, you should always use a unique value for your alt text, right? That is, you know, so in other words, if we go to the Google machine, type in information architecture, you guys see that? The example information architecture in the whole world is mine. sorry, that's something to be proud of right there, right? The graphic example for information architecture is mine. Alt values on your images. Yeah, like holy shit, right? When a former student posted that in our little group. Hey, look here. Yeah, my jaw dropped too. Anyway, alt values for your images, right? So, domain and file names, right? This is where then you definitely want to change your permalink structure to something other than the defaults. Every time I've tried to do a custom structure, like with categories and that kind of stuff, that's where I've gotten permalink errors. Like if I link to one page, then change something, it doesn't link to that page any longer. I have come to the conclusion that WordPress likes you to stick with this. So stick with that, and WordPress will like you. But that will then write out the name of your pages in your URL structure or name of your postings. Okay. And that's where you can see then it will put your, so if we go to then any one. Now, if you put in something and let's say you change the name of the page or add a couple of keywords in there, it'll continue to use your old permalink. So what I typically do is if I change something, I just copy the title, and it'll now change it to the slug form of the permalink structure. Okay. Other than that, body anchor text. Basically, Google prioritizes words that have anchor text around them. Okay? They prioritize the first one they come in contact with, right? So what I typically do on my homepage is, remember where we had the SEO snippet of text, right? That's where then I take that SEO snippet of text and make sure that all of these things link to their correct pages, right? Prioritizes them a little bit more. I don't know the mathematical how Google actually does a lot of their stuff like that, but like I said, I do know that that's part of it. Yeah, alt values for images, domain file names. Lastly, your permalink structure, and that's it. Like I said, when I first had my website up and running, if I did a search for logo design Seattle, I ranked on page 36. Once I converted my site to being a WordPress site and then implemented these techniques, I went from page 36 to page 1, sometimes on page 2. Took a while. I got up to like page 4, page 3, and I hovered around 4 and 3 for a while. And then there is a plugin that I don't talk about in this lecture, but let me talk about it here on the video. So for you students that didn't come to class today, Mark, not mentioning your name, calling you out. I just totally called out Mark because he's not here, right? There is a plugin, Google XML Sitemaps. Do you guys know what XML sitemaps are? Have you ever heard of them? Basically, they are a machine-friendly architecture document, sitemap document that Google likes. Let's just say it in layman's terms like that. This plugin then, every time I make an update, write a new posting, whatever, this plugin then communicates with Google, Yahoo, Bing, etc., and notifies them that I've made a change so that their spiders will recrawl my site. Okay? So I would, for all of your business sites, use this XML site map generator, right, to do that. Like I said, putting all of these techniques in play has brought, like I said, for being a community college teacher that does freelance on the side, to have those kind of results is, you know, I think pretty good. Now, one of the other things that does help me is how many quality links are there to my site? How many of you have ever on your own websites linked to any one of my pages on my premium DW domain or my school premium SEC premium DW? Nobody in this class? Huh? How many of you, Evan, have you ever linked to a page on my site from your website?
No.
No. Jake, you have? Thanks, dude. You have, Casey? Nice. So I do have, I've been featured on, some of my postings have been featured in other, you know, those blogs, the top 10 things, right? Some of my postings have been featured in those, but yeah, quality links go into your site. But like I said, this is the cornerstone right here. If and when you guys are doing WordPress development as a profession and doing it for clients, this is the structure that I've implemented into the Rehab Washington, the Jet City Improv, the Real Self, any of those sites, instead of using the plugin stuff. So I think that pretty much concludes today's lecture. So again, for the assignments, you know, title tag, I would recommend that you write a function in your functions PHP file and pass it through your header for experience like that. I mean, you could write out the conditionals in your header, but you might as well, you know, just experience writing a function. Enable your excerpts for pages. Make sure that you do write out excerpts in each one of your pages. So when I go clicking through, that'll be that. So that's the last official assignments in this class. So any questions? Was that? Yeah.
So, assuming we have everything done next week, it's kind of last time.
Yeah, I would encourage you to show up on Monday to fill out the class evaluation. Because unfortunately, the way they do it around here is they give us a 2-hour window to give you instead of the way UW gives everybody a 2-week window or something like that, which I should probably ask the powers that be about that, because yeah, if I give you a 2-hour window and then half the people don't show up because it's lab, you know what I mean? I need to write to somebody about that, don't I? Yeah, I think I will. It'll be a task, right? Yeah, other than that, you know, from here on out, it's just get your assignments done. I feel like that I've given you guys a lot of assignments to do, yeah? Some of you have found them very, very easy. Some of you have not. Most of you are right in the middle of, yeah, I'm sort of keeping up, right? I have to do this on my, you know, homework schedule, but, you know, so, all right. How should we sign off today?
Finally some rain.
Huh?
Finally some rain.
Finally some rain. Yeah.
It's not good.
And beer.